if you put a classic in your wardrobe, you'll have it forever.
Yeah.
Sometimes, always, never. Bow tie, straight tie, never the bottom. Yeah.
So talk me through this suit. This is what caught my eye, really. So this is a Brooks Brothers suit made in Canada.
When guys come in and because they're like, what tie is going to match the era of the suit? I always just tell them, take your tie, put it into your lapel. Right. Does it fit? I'm not kidding. Like, menswear is going to be a stunning place to be in 2025. So with a little bit of tailoring, this would be a starter suit.
Mm-hmm. For a young man who wants to dress sharp, but still stick to a budget, you have two options. You can either buy a cheap plastic suit from a store like H&M, or you can come to a place like this, Richard's Fabulous Finds, in my home city of Chicago. So Richard, I want you to imagine that I'm a young man interested in presenting himself a little bit sharper, better than the average guy on the streets, doesn't want to spend a ton of money, has decided to go vintage, but he doesn't want to look like it's from a different decade entirely either.
Right.
Where should we start?
Round rack number 2.
All right, let's go.
So, and just as a notion, in my shop, I put all my oldest vintage in the front, 1930s to 1960s. And the reason I separate it out is because this is actually very hard to kind of make it with the alterations modern.
More modern, okay.
Yeah. Some of it can be now that the double-breasted peak lapel is back, but honestly, that extension, the way the lapel is cut, it's going to read vintage. Plus, the pant is usually 2 inches above the belly button.
Okay.
It's vintage whether you like it or not.
Sure.
So when you go into this rounder, this is going to be what I call my corporate vintage. So it's more pinstripes, checks, plaids, solids. You're going to have a slightly lower stance.
Okay.
Which was big in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, by stance, you mean where the jacket buttons up?
Where the button, where the button is. Which throws a lot of guys off because they don't necessarily like it technically that low.
Yeah.
But we're returning back to the sack suit, the classic Brooks Brothers. And then, of course, then there's also 3 buttons that will float in and out throughout the menswear. It's really about going to your tailor and really having it kind of cut to you.
So I'm looking at these. What would speak to you for me?
Well,
I'm looking for, I don't own a ton of suits. I need something I can wear fairly often without people going, it's that guy in the same suit again.
Well, I mean, anytime you go into your classic Prince of Wales plaids and any of these, I mean, those are going to be stuff that you're always going to find. Your classic Brooks Brothers, J. Crew, Ralph Lauren, Banana Republic. Those are all going to be something that you'll always get. And that's why when guys come in and they want to wear vintage in a modern way, that's why we go to this round.
Okay, right.
If you want to wear vintage and want to look like you walked out of a 1940s movie, let's go to the first rounder. Yeah.
So talk me through this suit. This is what caught my eye, really. So this is a Brooks Brothers suit made in Canada. What year would you estimate that this will be from?
Again, we're looking at the yoke on this. I'd probably put this in the 90s because by the 90s in menswear, we went back to the 3-button notch lapel.
Okay.
Which reflects the 50s.
I see.
So the 40s, double-breasted peak lapel. 80s, double-breasted peak lapel. 2020s, double-breasted peak lapel. 2030 is going to come around. 50s, 90s, 2030. But I tell a lot of men in my shop, especially, I mean, if there's one suit that you can buy that you'll always have in your closet, a classic 3-button will always be there because with it, especially one that has a 3-2 roll to it, you can just do your middle button.
Right, and nobody really notices.
Sometimes, always, never. Seam that front. Yeah. So that'll be the one that will always be the top, especially if you're a starter suit.
Right, okay.
So the first suit, I always tell a lot of guys, the first suit you should always have in your wardrobe is always going to be a 3-button. Because that's always going to stand the test of time.
So you can get a great Brooks Brothers suit that would retail for what, $1,200 these days, probably? 12
to 15.
Yeah, for $185.
Yeah.
Right. I'll throw that on in a few minutes, and we can show people how it looks as well.
Cool.
And because we also have to talk about the fact that it's not going to be perfect when you try it on in the store.
True.
You have to.
Well, plus, and you look at the '90s silhouette was actually very generous. It was very boxy.
Right.
And the way I'm noticing that we're going to modernize like 40s and 50s. 80s, 90s, 2020, 2030. We're giving things a shape more, which actually reflects more of the 40s and 50s.
Okay.
A little silhouette. But what also I think Brooks Brothers did was great was the 4-season fabric, the tropical weight wool.
Yeah.
If you feel this isn't a flannel, it's not a brush, it's not a double weight gabardine.
Yeah.
It's going to be your all 4 seasons. The first suit in your wardrobe.
Right.
You'll wear it all year long.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's my
really, really
my initial impression, which is what a lot of people might get when they wear something vintage, is this looks dated to me.
Right.
So what could we do?
Well, so I guess you need to tell me what you feel is dated.
I think it's the shoulders, and there's something about just the overall silhouette.
Right.
It's like this has no shape to it.
I agree.
Right.
Well, because you're looking at the suit, I would probably put it at Brooks Brothers from 1980, 81, 82.
Yeah.
Which would have been a much more expanded look. Of course, Brooks Brothers was known for the sack suit, of obviously the name sack.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have had a lot of tailoring to it. If you do the top button, which we talked about earlier about the high cut 3, sometimes, always, never. And what you'll notice in the 80s, see that straight line all the way down? You're right.
Where's the changing room? In here?
Dated, yeah. So if you were buying the suit from my shop, I'd be like, okay, we need to fix this.
Right.
See, because we need to follow your curve.
Yeah.
So you go here, here's the end, here's your ribs, right? End. That means this is your small.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's turn forward. Now see how much of a difference that makes?
Yeah, definitely.
Right away.
Yeah.
Gives you a shape, not this, but it gives you a shape,
Yeah.
right? The other giveaway that this is 80, 81, 82. Turn sideways again. See the flare on your legs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
By 83, that disappeared.
I see.
Taper. So I can put this suit within a 3-year period. See how just that little bit right there?
Yeah, and even the shoulders now start to look a little bit more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, if we went in a smaller, you're going to get a pucker.
Yeah.
Now, and if it was 1990, you'd be out here.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this, for a Brooks, this is your classic sack.
Right. And obviously the sleeves are just long.
I always tell people just one little finger width. I like British tailoring. I'm not a big fan of, like, the Italian stuff's good. And of course, Americans wear our shit down to the knuckles. It's embarrassing. But what's great about Brooks, again, see, that's your 3-2 roll, single piece. So I'd re-steam this so you could do that, see? Which would bring you into your 3-2 roll.
Oh, so by steaming it, you can change where that crease is.
Exactly. Well, and that's my dry cleaner. I keep telling her, don't press the lapels. So with a little bit of tailoring, this would be a starter suit. 3-button, 3-2 roll, taper the leg. You'd have it forever.
Yeah.
And it's 4 seasons of fabric. So it's tropical weight wool, spring, summer, fall, winter. I'm not kidding. Like, menswear is going to be a stunning place to be in 2025. Sometimes, always, never. Bow tie, straight tie, never the bottom.
Okay.
See? But we don't want to do this. We just want to give it a little shape at the ribs, not at the waist.
Well, how do you feel about the shoulders on this one?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, because if you got it any shorter, feel that? See what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
If you got it any shorter, you'd have a pucker. It's not a stomach. It's not a belly. It's not a gut. It's real estate. You've earned it. Own it. It's my
That's so
frontage.
funny. What did I say?
Frontage.
My dad tells me, he always says, all bought and paid for. This is maybe a good example of things that most people would want to avoid in the earlier stages. So we're looking at the 1970s.
Yep.
What really was going on in the minds of people in the 70s when they made stuff like this?
Well, you know, I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna switch sides with you.
Sure.
It was actually technically a backlash to the structured dressing of the 60s.
Okay.
So the alternative world, you know, I mean, because there was so much going on in the 60s. I mean, God, the turmoil with the government and the wars that were going on. Plus, they had discovered what they called the beauty of polyester. Little did they know that the people are literally wearing garbage bags.
What else would you be looking for as a young person looking to elevate their style? Where else can we go in the store?
Well, hats are out. Coats are, it's kind of all the same. I mean, you know, neckwear is also really, really important.
Right.
I mean, so if you wanted to elevate, and the great thing about vintage is when you can buy a $200, $300 tie and you can get it for such a marked better price.
Yeah.
When guys come in and because they're like, what tie is going to match the era of the suit? I always just tell them, take your tie, put it into your lapel.
Right.
Does it fit? There's your tie.
Great.
Yeah, because the 40s ties will be, that's how you know a real 40s tie versus a 50s tie, because it's going to be that tiny knot, but it's also going to be actually wider. because the lapels were so much wider.
Yeah.
60s, of course, is kind of like explanatory because the skinny suit,
Everything's
skinny
yeah.
lapel.
Right.
So, and then the 80s came in kind of redoing the 40s, 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So when in doubt, make sure your tie fits in your lapel and you're
Yeah.
good. If you went to Tom Ford today, you would spend a fortune on this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted edgy
Right.
at $75, we do that too. I
Yeah.
mean, so it's, yeah. In fact, actually, last year, I think I sent somebody to the Grammys in this jacket.
Wow.
Yeah, it was part of a jazz band.
How would you describe your clientele?
You know, it's such a mixed bag.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have, thanks to my TikTok, thank God it didn't go away, my 15 to 20 market, the young guys. I think the young people today don't necessarily have the stigma that people maybe from my generation would have, but like as secondhand used,
Oh, I see. No, it's
vintage.
cool to do that.
It's actually, well, because it's more environmentally friendly. You definitely get one of a kind. I mean, maybe you wear something like your mom or your dad might have worn to like that prom or whatever. But certain social medias, like my Instagram is my 30 to 60 market.
Okay.
So people like that want to wear vintage again in the modern world. You have the vintage lifestyle people, which we have a lot of in Chicago, that want to look like they walked out of like a great movie, you know, Gatsby style. So it's such a huge, and then we do a lot of TV movie in my industry. So I've done HBO, Fox News, the Bear that shoots in Chicago, they've bought lots of stuff from my store. So yeah. And neckwear by decade. So you have your 1920s, 30s super shorts. Then you go into your 1940s/50s swing ties, which are also still a little short because the pant was so high.
Swing tie, where does that name come from?
Swing era, swing band.
Got you.
Yep.
Wow, look at this one.
Which, and the collector market is big for that. That's why
really?
it's so thin. I haven't had a really good large batch of 40s, 50s come in quite a while.
Right. Okay.
The
then
50s, 60s
skinny
skinnies.
ties. Yeah.
Probably the most popular in my store because the young guys definitely like the narrower of the body.
I mean, this is, in terms of the cut, this is like something that would be sold in Top Man or...
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we get a much higher quality
But again,
tie.
does it fit into your lapel?
Yeah. I mean, these would be too skinny for all of my suits. But I have a friend who always wears 60s style suits that these would look great with.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you've got some of your older pieces that like very Hermes inspired. Hardy Ames, love this brand by Brit brand. You know, it does those classics. So if I told you that it was Hermes, would you believe it? Unless I
would. I thought it was MS, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this one. I'm designing a tie right now.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have a membership community and I want there to be a club tie. And it's fairly similar to this. The main color is this dark bottle green.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be a
and for
light blue stripe
2025, bottle green, brown. Oh my God. The daily request for brown suits.
Right.
Harvest gold, burgundy. So it's really kind of like a 70s color palette.
Yeah.
Recycled.
For me, this is one of the most fun things about these types of stores. Cufflinks, tie bars, these kinds of accessories, because this can add up if you're trying to buy this new, especially if you're trying to buy quality.
Sure.
But we've got a lot of fun going on here. When it comes to the gold and the metals, how can you spot something that's quality and something that's on the cheaper side as a customer?
Well, anything in an alloy is, of course, is going to be less, but it's priced less here in my shop. I mean, anything I would have like that's going to be of a higher quality or anything in the sterling or actual gold is going to be locked up in the case.
Oh, I see, right.
It's very rare that I run into an actual gold. And I also tell people, Humboldt Park, where my shop is located, is getting better, but we're not ready for gold and diamonds yet. but anything you buy that's going to be of caliber, I mean, you have your Aero brand, your Anson brand, I mean, any of those stuff. It was such a large business in its day. The quality and the construction is always going to be better than what you can buy today.
Right.
So as I said, if you could go to, say, Neiman Marcus and you pay $150 for an aluminum alloy-based Burberry pair of cufflinks.
Yeah.
You're paying for the name. You're not paying for the construction. So I mean, if you go into the case here, even here, I mean, you've got that's petrified wood. You've got tiger eye. You've got Swarovski stones. You know, I mean, any of this. It's much better made. It's not new, but still, I mean, real turquoise, you're still going to get a better price. And then you have the uniqueness of saying, "Oh, I love your cufflinks. They're 70 years old. Pretty cool, right?"
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, good stuff stands the test of time. Just like me at 55, I'm still standing.
Richard, thank you very much for showing me around. I
absolutely.
really
My
appreciate
pleasure,
it. It's
my
been
pleasure.
Great to
Anytime.
see you again.
Realistically, every suit you buy off the rack should be altered, right? If you think it fits perfectly off the rack, chances are your standards are too low.
Wow, Raphael. Oh.
If you flip it over, you see irregular stitches here, right? So that means this collar was added by hand.
This is a Ralph Lauren Purple Label suit.
Yes.
Retail price $4,000. This is $695.
You can tell, if you see this label,
Yeah.
where it just says Ralph Lauren on it, this is the Made in Italy line.
Okay.